Hey guys, my name is David and you are watching Stories Told. Today, I am going to explain a horror, thriller, mystery movie called The Belko Experiment. Please be aware, the video contains spoilers. The movie is set in the capital of Colombia, Bogotá. We can see a crowded street. Street vendors dealing with live animals, stray dogs, jugglers. People just try to make a living. The camera zooms into a car with our protagonist, Mike in it. He is on the phone with Greg, who seemingly isn't in the competition for Employee of the Month. Mike's rather irritated with his attitude, but he zones out for a second, and notices a creepy boy in a skull mask is staring at him. Then he gets spooked by a vendor who bangs on his window. We then jump to the workplace, where Barry's sitting in his car. He's waiting in line to get in, but he grew impatient with the army checking all the incoming cars. He then has to show his ID to an officer to get inside. He notices in the back that they're sending a Spanish-speaking man home. With a really nice Latin song playing in the back, we can see the employees doing various things, like casually smoking a blunt on the toilet. Once the song finished, we see a CCTV room with people watching over many cameras that are placed around the building. Then we can see Danny, who is getting introduced to her new workplace. She literally gets everything company issued: credit card, car, apartment, and even a tracker. Vince warns her about the kidnappings in Bogotá, that's why they need the tracker. We finally get to hear what the company actually does. Belko is a non-profit organization that facilitates American companies in South America, in the hiring of American workers. Leandra's sitting at her desk, and notices that Wendell's staring at her for some time. She messages him, and he handles it the boomer way, using lol completely wrong. Mike walks into her office and puts a corn cob figure on her desk. She then draws the blinds and they start kissing. She is reluctant, explaining that she just got through a divorce, and doesn't want to jump headfirst into a new relationship. Barry walks in on them, telling her that she needs to set up a call for later that day. Danny got to her desk. Her boss slams some books on her table demanding to make PowerPoint files of these documents in just 2 hours. I'm not sure what good it's gonna make to make presentations from raw data, but it seems that's how they operate at this company. Once she left, Roberto introduces himself to her, so does Letta. They seem to compete for Danny's attention in order to screw with each other. They mention that no normal person works for Belko, as we can see in the next scene, with Peggy and Keith talking to ants on their ant farm. Mike walks into the office and asks Terry about the absence of, like, half of the company. He says that they sent the locals home. He phones the security about the locals, and the security guard tells him that it was a central decision to send them home. He notices that the new guards are walking into the old hangar next door. A loud microphone feedback disrupts their conversation. A voice from a loudspeaker tells all the employees to stop any work that they are doing and pay attention to him. He says that there are currently 80 of them in the building and most of them are gonna be dead in 8 hours. The chance of survival increases if they follow his orders and complete tasks that he places before them. The first task is to murder 2 of their colleagues in half an hour. If there were no 2 dead bodies when the timer runs out, they're gonna face repercussions. Everybody starts panicking, and they also notice that the phone lines are dead. Mike tells them to evacuate. Keith jokes about it, but they still agree to do it. Armored panels are pulling up, blocking the windows, eventually trapping them inside the building. Mike and Terry get off the elevator in the main lobby, despite him telling everybody to use the stairs previously. The frustration of the employees grows larger by the minute. They meet Bud, a janitor there. They talk about cutting through the metal, and somehow Bud knows that it covers the entire building. They agree to try blowtorching through the metal. Barry tries to calm the crowd, and says that somebody hacked the defense system, and is playing a joke on them. Some of the employees go to the roof where they find Marty and some guys smoking pot. The blowtorch obviously couldn't melt the metal. Mike expresses his concerns to Barry, about this being more than just a prank. On the roof, Marty explains that this is all a psychological test on them, to see how they handle a situation like this. As he is telling his manifesto, the girl next to him gets shot in the head. The same thing happens to a guy down in the lobby. This starts the stampede, and more employees' heads explode. Barry investigates one of the corpses, and he notices it's not a bullet wound. Mike says that the tracers are planted in the back of their heads for insurance can also be triggered to explode. He runs upstairs to the kitchen and grabs a box cutter. He locks himself in the toilet and attempts to cut out the tracker. The voice on the loudspeaker says his name, and orders him to put down the knife, or they're gonna set the explosive off in his head. They need to stitch him up. Leandra is grabbing ice for Mike, but she is stopped by Wendell. He says that she is giving him mixed messages and she is totally into him. She tells him to piss off. Barry tries to convince Evan to give him the key to the armory, but he refuses. The voice tells them not to dismantle any more cameras, and not to attempt to remove the device from their heads. He mentions that there are 76 of them left alive, and they should kill 30 people in 2 hours, otherwise they're gonna kill 60 of them. Everybody goes nuts, either trying to grab weapons or hide. Marty pulls the fire alarm. While Bud's trying to calm Lonnie, he hits him on the head with a wrench, ultimately killing him. He then notices Danny in the back hiding. He grabs her, but she pushes him into some spikes on the wall, which kills him. Back in the cafeteria, they are discussing whether to actually kill the demanded 30 people or not. Mike is absolutely against this idea. He says that they are gonna kill everybody, because they can't afford to let anybody live, and tell about this to the general public. They decide to put up banners on the roof that might attract somebody's attention outside. A few remain in the cafeteria and Barry turns real sinister about the whole situation. Mike and Leandra notice that the blowtorch is missing from the lobby. They discover Barry and his crew trying to break into the armory. Evan turns off the blowtorch, which makes Wendell incredibly hostile towards him. He then needs to pull his gun out to protect himself. Mike convinces him to give him the pistol. They continue to break in, but Mike shoots the blowtorch tube with a bullseye. They go upstairs to warn the others about Barry and his crew. Marty's going crazy about the water containing some psychoactive drug, so they decide to destroy all the water dispensers. They are finally ready to hang the banners on the side of the building. But the soldiers from below start to rain bullets at them, eventually hitting Keith's hand. Mike just doesn't want to stop and he tries again. The others seize him. They escort Keith downstairs, but Mike gets a mental breakdown. He starts rambling about the job not making any sense, and that they are conducting a human experiment on them. Leandre tells him that it's impossible, even though 4 of her colleagues had been already killed. As they walk downstairs, they get jumped on by Barry. He knocks Mike out with a fire extinguisher, and takes the pistol. Wendell demands the keys from Evan, but he throws them down the stairs. Then Wendell stabs him in the stomach. Leandra calls him a pervert, which makes him extremely angry. They all leave Evan to bleed out on the stairs. With the key, they finally can open up the armory. They decide to arm their whole crew with pistols and a single mag. They start lining up everybody in the lobby. Mike wakes up and finds the corpse of Evan. Once everybody is in the lobby, Barry orders everyone that has a child younger than 18 to step forward. After this, everybody who is over the age of 60 needs to step forward. The elderly needs to stand in front of another wall. It's only 7 people, so Barry randomly selects individuals from the crowd. A guy's being resistant, so Wendell casually shoots him. They also select Mike. Barry demands some music, so they turn on the radio. While the Spanish version of the California Dreamin' is playing, they start to execute the selected people. Danny creeps up from the basement, but once she sees what's going on, she decides to go back. Mike's trying to convince Terry to give him his gun, but he rats him out to Barry immediately. Danny turns off the electricity in the whole building, just before they pull the trigger on Mike. Everybody starts fleeing in various directions. Danny gets in the elevator with Roberto and they manage to climb on top of it. The angry crowd manages to kill 2 of the gunmen. The remaining crooks try to clear the building. The voice tells them that they are only 1 person short of 30, so they are desperately searching for the last one. Leandra dismantles the paper cutter and hides under a desk. Terry walks in and he notices some shoes under another desk. He walks right into Leandra's trap. She cuts his leg with the blade taken from the paper cutter earlier, and also cuts his hand as he reaches for his gun. Terry's begging for his life and somehow he succeeds. Leandra drops the blade. Now the voice tells them that they have come up with 1 more body or 31 more employees will die. We can see a man randomly pulling switches next to the names of the employees. A lot of the known faces die as well. Once it stops, the voice tells them that whoever kills the most people in 1 hour gets to live. The current order is Barry with 11 kills, Wendell with 7 kills, Vincent and Danny with 1 kill each. They start slaughtering. Barry turns full on Joker, killing a woman with his bare hands, stating that he can't waste bullets. Wendell is slaughtering people with his trusty cleaver. Barry calls down the same elevator as Danny and Roberto are hiding on top of. Roberto fails to get down from the top in time and the elevator cuts him in half. Danny manages to jump down, but she is stuck in the elevator shaft. Barry gets stuck in the elevator as well. Leandra finds Marty and Chet cutting the bombs out of a corpse's head. They want to blow a hole in the wall and get out of there. She assures them that it is a good idea. She gets on the loudspeaker and tells Mike that she is on the 1st floor. She then walks around the building, finding Wendell butchering his friend. She pulls the trigger but completely misses the shot, only hitting his arm. Wendell goes into a rampage killing Marty. His gun ran out of bullets and so Leandra can finally have her revenge, splitting his head in half with an axe. Vince is making Molotov cocktails in the basement while Danny shows us her acrobatic skills, climbing over the shaft and jumping on the top of another elevator. Barry finally breaks free and heads downstairs. Mike and Leandra are in the lobby collecting the bombs that Marty left there. Vince appears and throws a Molotov cocktail on Liesl. They flee from the scene to upstairs, only to meet Barry above. He shoots Vince. They manage to get to safety, but Mike notices that Leandra has been gravely wounded by Barry. Danny jumps down the elevator and hits the button to go downstairs. As soon as the door opens, Barry kills her with a clean headshot. Mike tries to calm Leandra that it's gonna be okay, but she dies before he finishes his sentence. He then jumps on Barry but quickly loses the upper hand. They have a brawl that ultimately ends in Mike bashing Barry's head in with a tape holder. Soldiers come in and take Mike out, as he is the only one that survived this mess. They take him to the old hangar to meet the man behind the voice. They conduct an interview with him about the experiment. The voice says that they are part of an international organization whose goal is to study human behavior unfettered by conventional concepts. He explains that they have learned an incredible amount about the human mind since they've started these experiences. He asks Mike to describe his emotion in a test-like interview. Mike explains that he snuck the explosives into all of their clothes. He quickly jumps and pulls the remaining switches. He then grabs the AR of one of the soldiers and finishes off the voice. The camera zooms out and we can see hundreds of monitors showing the same kind of scenes from experiments around the world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks.